Hey, what's up guys? Tip and Tara here from Fit to Travel. If you are new to our channel, welcome. If you've been here before, you're probably a subscriber, so welcome back. Today is a big day. We are gonna get Miss Tara over here to give you all of her tips and secrets and tips on how to book cheap flights.
Yeah, saying it all.
So this is one of the reasons why we are able to travel as much as we do, is because Tara finds the best and the cheapest flights. I know she's a little bit embarrassed, but I'm not trying to boast her. Like, she finds some of the most awesome places to ever go. And the reason why I know that, it's one of the most frequently asked questions that we get is, how do we find cheap flights? And I honestly don't know the answer, so I'm not going to be talking too much in this video. I'll be kind of helping to narrate, but she's going to really help you with everything. This video is really just meant to help you really find cheap flights. We're going to share 6 sites that we use to search for cheap flights, and then we're going to end up giving you 5 tips for booking these cheap flights.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I have done to find cheap flights is, instead of starting with a destination in mind, I basically just search open-ended. Okay, and so some of these, we'll go over these sites in detail and the pros and cons, but the biggest thing, if you really want to find cheap flights, like if you really don't care where you're going, is just to search and see what destinations come up. And what destinations come up, then you can decide which of those you would rather go to. The biggest problem that most people have is they're so stuck on one destination, and then they cannot find cheap flights to that one destination because they're so stuck on that destination at this time. So the biggest key here is going to be being flexible. So that is rule number 1 before we get into things. But first, we are going to start out with my ultimate favorite, probably the simplest search engine out there for finding cheap flights, and that's Google Flights. Google Flights is super easy to use. It's a meta search engine, just like Google. It's literally google.com/flights, and you just start searching. So what's cool about Google Flights is they have a map. So you can pull up the map and just see, you enter your departure airport, or even a couple of departure airports, and you just kind of look at the prices around. So you can move the map around, you can play around with all of the different continents, countries, dates, airlines, all of the different filters, and you just have fun. I'm kind of nerdy because I like this. This is like what I do in my spare time. It's just finding cheap flights. It's therapeutic. I don't know.
I love it.
The nice thing about Google Flights is you can search by a date grid. So let's say you have a date in mind, like September 10th to September 17th. You can search those dates, but then you can also pull up the grid, which will show plus or minus a few days on what's going to be the best or cheapest flight options. And then from there, you can click on those dates and look and see what airline it is, or how long it is, or how many stops. And on all of these, you can filter those out. So if you only want one stop, no matter what, you just add that onto the filter, and then it won't show you any of the other 2-stop places. But the best thing about the Google Flights is the searching everywhere. You can search just based on the map, or you can even just put in like let's put in Europe. You can look from Portland to Europe at the next 6 months, anytime in the next 6 months, and it'll literally show you all of the flight prices to these different countries in that time frame. So from there, you can pick and see. So on this example, we're going to change it to a 1-stop because we don't want to do too many layovers. And we see that London is $790. Like, let's just book that. So let's click on that, And from there, it will take us straight to the airline's website to book the flight. So it's really simple. It's really easy. Once you start playing around with some of the cool features like the filters, it will blow your mind. Tip's probably like, she's ridiculous. But let's just say that was like an open-ended search, right? An example. Let's say you know where you want to go, but you have flexible dates. If you have flexible dates, like let's search for Montego Bay, Jamaica. We'll go in September. So if you pull up the calendar, you will see the green dates on the calendar are going to be the cheaper dates to fly. And so ideally, if you can, you're going to want to pick those green dates because that means you'll be saving money. So on this example, it's going to be $492, and we're going to click on that and see what the flight is. But that is Spirit Airlines, and so we're not going to pick that one. So we're going to go back in and we're going to change our airlines to not include Spirit and also Frontier. We don't really fly like those budget airlines, so we're going to take those off of our search, and then we'll just see, it will show all of the other airlines from there. So those are just a couple quick examples on how to maximize the Google Flights search engine. Some pros of using Google Flights is there's tons of ways to filter based on destination, dates, airlines, stops. So you can really narrow it down as much as you want, or you can have a wide search if you're open to everything. And then you'll book directly with the airline, which I think is always the best way to go because you'll tend to have less, if there are any issues with your flight, speaking to an airline is going to be much more resolvable than speaking with somebody from like Expedia or Orbit or something like that. So I always recommend booking with the airline, and Google Flights will just take you directly to the airline's website to book. With Google Flights, you can also search plenty of months ahead of time, which is nice. So the 6-month option is really good, or even further if you know that you want to be going at some point further ahead of time. And then probably one of the best perks of using Google Flights is you can actually search up to 5 different airports. So this is really cool. For us in Portland, it's really not as convenient because we don't have a lot of extra airports around. We have some smaller ones, and we have Seattle, which is 3 hours. But so say if you're in like Washington, D.C. area, there's so many airports right there that you could search, you could plug all of those into your departure airport and then search from there. So it gives a lot of different ideas and options when you are searching, if you're flexible on which airport you fly out of. And then the last pro is the calendar view, which lets you see the cheapest dates. That's always a good option if you are flexible on your travel dates. A couple cons with Google Flights is sometimes the price is outdated. I will say that probably happens on all of these, not that often, but it happens. And then some airlines don't list their flight prices on Google Flights, like Southwest. So if you like to fly Southwest, you'll have to search for them on their own. And then Google Flights does not have an app, which some of these other ones have an app, which makes it easy to use. But because it's a Google search engine, it works great on the phone. So you don't really need an app. I just know some people find that to be a little bit easier. So the next site that we use to book is Skyscanner.
I know this one.
Yeah.
We actually were partners with them early on, and I actually used them a couple of times. I didn't book anything, but I actually used them a couple of times.
To look for things,
To look for things,
Yes, Skyscanner is another good one. It's a UK-based flight search engine. It's great for searching with flexibility, and it allows you to search everywhere at any month or specific dates. I don't think it is quite as good as Google Flights. Google Flights just has a little bit more like filters. But some of the pros with Skyscanner is it splits up your search into the best flight, the cheapest flight, or the fastest flight. So if you have a flight, if you want to go to Europe and you want it to be as cheap as possible, you'll be able to see that at like, let's say $500. Or you could see that may be like 3 stops, right? So it's really cheap, but it's 3 stops. So if you want the best flight option, which is going to give you a little bit of the combination of the, not the cheapest, but cheaper, and also not the fastest, but fast time, then it's going to give you some different options there. So that's really nice. It gives you some good options. And you can filter all the searches by number of stops, airlines, duration. So if you don't want to be flying for more than like 20 hours, then that's a good option to do. And you can set up flight price alerts. Skyscanner does have an app to use, which makes it really handy. And it also shows different airlines each way. So if you're going to fly Alaska one way and Delta coming back, it will still show that. It's not just based on Alaska round trip or Delta round trip. So it has some good mix and match varieties there. A couple of cons with Skyscanner is it does take you, when you want to book those prices, it does take you to Expedia or Orbit or another third-party booking window, which I don't particularly like booking through. What I usually do if I'm searching on Skyscanner is then I'll find my dates and where I'm going, and then I'll go to that airline website and book from there. So it's always good just to make sure that it's also the same price and everything, or cheaper even, as opposed to just booking through a third-party booking site like Expedia would be. And then on Skyscanner, sometimes the price does disappear. So if you're searching and then you click on it and then it's gone, that's just the name of the game, and that just means that that option is no longer available. So if you see something, you got to book it while it's there. It's true for anything, really. It might not be there in 5 more minutes. So book it now. Skyscanner does not have the map view that Google Flights does, which I think is really cool feature. So that's one thing that I don't like about Skyscanner. And then another thing that can be a little bit of a pain is you can't see the total price. You can't see if it's like basic economy or economy until you actually go to book the flight. So the difference with basic economy and economy is basic economy is usually, I mean, it's cheaper, but it doesn't include a lot of extra things. Like usually you just get a crappier seat selection. You usually don't get like a checked bag and that kind of stuff. So if that's important to you, obviously you'll want to know the difference. Generally, if that price is popping up, it's probably just going to be a basic economy, cheapest flight possible, which is okay too if you don't want to take any luggage or care where you sit or anything like that. So the third site is going to be Kayak. Kayak is a pretty popular site. It comes up a lot when people are talking about searching for cheap flights. I like it for the explore function, so you can just go to the Kayak page, and then on the side there's going to be a little explore icon, and from there you can search just like all the other ones, anywhere, anytime, and any duration, which I really like. The duration is key because a lot of the searching sites will be like 1 week or 2 weeks or weekend, whereas you can pick like 9 days or 23 days or whatever your exact duration is. So if you know you have 21 days of vacation, you could put 21 days in the search and find the best flights for those actual duration, which is really nice. And then again, just like Skyscanner, once you search, it will filter by the cheapest, the best, or the quickest flights, which is a very good pro for kayak?
As a novice person who books trips, which I've only booked one trip, which I plan our Barbados trip, which we got videos on. But Kayak is probably the only app that I have on my phone that is like, you know, anything for searching. So like that's the only thing, like no matter what, if we should try to go somewhere, and in my own head, whenever I try to book something, it's always Kayak, and probably, I don't know why, but that's just the only app that I have on.
Is that what you use for Barbados?
Probably, yeah, most likely. It's been a long time. But I'm just saying in general, like that just, I don't know what to do. And so as a novice person who books, like that is just the one app that I have on my phone.
Yeah. I think Kayak's a pretty popular one for that. There's more commercials, especially because Skyscanner is a UK-based company. So for us in the US, we don't see commercials for Skyscanner.
Yeah.
If there are any commercials for Skyscanner. So I think we see Kayak a lot.
For sure, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's probably something,
like
a commercial
Expedia,
or something, yeah.
And then the last piece with Kayak is flexible travel dates can be seen as a price graph for the best dates. So you can actually like toggle your days around and kind of see which 2 days for the to and the from are going to be the best travel days. So the pros for Kayak: easy to filter out on what you're looking for. Can also search multiple airports. Can track prices, which is always nice. Can search by duration, which I mentioned. You can search the exact days that you want to be gone. Kayak lets you search flights plus or minus up to 3 days around your travel dates. So if you want to go June 10th to June 16th, but you have some wiggle room, you can add up to 3 days on both ends to see if there's any like better days or not, which is nice. And then a cool thing about Kayak is it will show you on the search results if a checked bag is included or not. And if it's not included, it will say how much that checked bag will be based on the airline. So each airline is going to be a little bit different. I haven't done any like cross-checking to make sure that the number's actually correct, but it just gives you a good idea of like if I'm adding a bag, if you know you're going to be adding a bag, it's going to be more than just the $500 that you were quoted. And Kayak, like Tip talked about, does have an app, which is great. A couple of cons though is Kayak has ads on the website, which if you're searching a lot on Kayak, it can get really annoying. The last thing I need is more windows popping up when I'm searching because I already have a shit ton. So that can be a little bit annoying. And then the second con is that it might not show all the options. So just take that with a grain of salt that you might not be getting the full search results there. How was your experience with Kayak?
It was totally fine.
Great.
Like, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that's just the go-to, I think, when I'm just like, oh, how much is it to fly here? Or how much is it to fly here? Just that one app, like. But like, honestly, I think it probably has something to do with the commercials and how much they promote. And then that's just what I have. But like, honestly, yeah, it's fine for just popping stuff up. But like, I don't book a lot of trips because I have this person to my left to do that.
Yeah. This nerd who likes to look for cheap flights. And then the fourth site that we like to use is Momondo, which I feel like a lot of people do not know about Momondo. It's just like all the other ones. They're really all the same. They just all have a little bit of different, perks and cons. So you're probably pros and cons. You're probably not going to find too much difference between all of them. It's based on like how you like the interface and how everything works. So with Momondo, you can also search anywhere, anytime, any duration. So it also has that same duration that Kayak also has. And right when you search, it will pop up the price graph at the top. So you'll see the price graph at the top and then the prices underneath that, which is really cool. Usually they have them kind of separate. So you can kind of move around those dates and then the prices will change as you move. Momondo will also tell you if they think now is a good time to book that flight based on recent flight prices. Take that with a grain of salt. Also, like, I wouldn't take it word for word on like, yes, book this flight, and then a couple days later you see it's gone down. Like, it's just going based on what the trend has been doing, so it's not like it's set in stone. But it's cool to see the recent price trend, if it's going up or down, and that kind of stuff. And then it will also you can search your results or filter your results by the cheapest flight, the best flight, or the less carbon dioxide. So that is different. Yes.
Whoa.
Pretty cool. And then similar to Kayak, Momondo you can search plus or minus 3 days based on your intended travel days. And the price will tell you if it's basic, economy, saver, and like what's included. So if like a checked bag is included, or if you'll have to pay extra, which is cool. So you can kind of see that all on the search page right there. A couple cons with Momondo: it's not as fast as Google Flights. Google Flights is going to be the fastest out of all of these, just because it's Google. And Momondo does not take you straight to the airline website. So similar to Skyscanner, you'll have to find what you're searching and then go directly to those websites. So it's kind of one more step for people to do. And then you can only search one destination at a time, which I know is really not that big of a deal, but compared to a lot of these other ones where you can book multiple at once or search multiple at once, it just makes it easier to do that. So now we're going to talk about 2 subscription services that we also use for finding cheap flights. Subscription services are nice because they do the work for you. So they are email lists that notify you of different cheap flights. So these are...
Is that like Scott's Cheap Flights or whatever?
Yep.
Ooh, look, I know this
And
stuff.
Scott's Cheap Flights is now called Going. They've recently rebranded, so they're called Going.
He did?
Scott, yeah, Scott.
Scott changed? I'm sorry, I have no clue.
Yeah, so Scott's Cheap Flights, that's a perfect example. The 2 that we use are Scott's Cheap Flights, which is now Going, and Dollar Flight Club. So both of these, they have free and paid versions. The paid versions obviously give you more notifications of different flights. But basically how these work is you sign up for email notifications. So you can pick your airports that you want notifications from, and for both of them, depending on the level of membership that you book, you can choose maybe just one or multiple airports. So that depends on the membership level. But based on that, then you'll get notifications of different cheap flights. So these are everywhere. So the nice thing about these are you don't have to do any work. You get the emails and it will tell you exactly what the trip is, how to travel, and when to travel.
Sign me up.
The problem with that is, like, if you're looking for a specific place, you don't know when that place is going to be having a deal, right? So you don't know if you're like, I only want to go to the Caribbean. Well, the chances of that happening are probably pretty slim. Whereas you're going to get a little bit of Europe, you're going to get some more US flights, you're going to get some, Asia flights. Like you might get like one Caribbean flight. So it's nice because you just open your email and there's subscription.
No, honestly, I will attest to that for someone who doesn't like plan stuff. And, we have shared email accounts with Fit to Travel. And then I'll get stuff where it'd be like, oh, your flight track to Curacao, blah, 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 has dropped by this or that. And I'll click on those and just be like, oh, wow, it went down this. So that's probably the type of planner I would be planning trips.
Yeah, you would like the subscription base.
Yeah.
Where they just send you emails. But again,
Exactly.
you have to be flexible on where you're going. And those book quickly. So those ones, if you're getting emails, like you have to take action on those because once they're gone, right? It's usually an airfare or something like that. That's why they're cheaper. And if you guys have never tried either Going or Dollar Flight Club, you can try the premium for free for 14 days. We'll have links down below for both of them if you want to try them. They're really cool. We get emails all the time, and actually I get the emails and then it kind of like spurs me down a rabbit hole of like looking for other things. So I usually will look at those, and then I'll start looking at my Google Flights and kind of figure out like, oh, well, now we could go to Fiji, or, you know, that's basically how we got down the Fiji rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Anyways, so now that we've told you where to find cheap flights, let's talk about how to find cheap flights. So these are 5 tips for finding and booking cheap flights. Number 1, be flexible in your travel dates and your travel places. Like talked about this at the beginning, but the more flexible you are on where you're going, the better success you'll have with finding cheap flights. Don't get so caught up in like having to go here, having to go there. I think our last couple flights have all been based on like, oh, well, I found cheap flights. Do you want to go here? And he's like, yes. Like,
yes,
okay.
sign me up.
And when you're booking, or searching, I should say, you want to either delete your cookies on your computer or use a private window, so incognito. Just because if you're searching a lot, typically the prices stay a little bit higher. So
yeah, bull crap.
Incognito is the way to do it. You can just do a private window, which helps.
We've experienced this a lot. Trust us. It's been, I mean, she's experiencing it and she'll express it to me, but then I get the grunt of it. But it happens.
Flights are generally cheaper to fly midweek. Obviously, weekends are a busy time, so if you can avoid traveling on the weekend, you're going to have better luck with finding cheaper flights. And there used to be some talk about like booking flights was cheaper on like a Tuesday, Wednesday, but I haven't, like in the last little bit, I haven't really found a difference in booking on a weekend or booking during the week. So.
But there were times
yeah.
There were times in, I don't know, her traveling career where it'd be like, Tara would be like, oh, it's $500 to go to this place. And it was like a Wednesday. And then all of a sudden it was just a couple days later on Saturday, it was like $900. Like there's...
Fridays usually used to shoot up a lot. I don't know if that's because that can be like a payday for a lot of people or whatever. But as of lately, I haven't really found that issue anymore. So when you're searching, you want to make sure that you check the baggage policy, because sometimes the bag, if you want a checked bag, that is not included. And that cheap flight that you just booked is no longer cheap anymore, because now you're having to pay extra for your luggage. So make sure, double check that you know if you're booking basic economy or economy, what's included in those prices. A lot of them are just going to be the basic economy, and you have to choose to search or to pick the economy flight. So that's a big part of one way that the flights can add up to is all of the extra fees. And then the 5th one is the 24-hour rule, which a lot of people don't know about this, but the US government has a federal law that requires airlines to provide a full 100% refund for any flight if you cancel within 24 hours of booking. This is only for any flight that touches US soil. So I don't know about anyone that's in Europe or anything like that, but if you are coming to or from the US and you've booked a flight and then you want to cancel within 24 hours, you are free to do so.
There have been times where Tara's like, oh, there's a flight here, blah, blah, blah. And, it's this price. And I'm like, just book it.
Yeah.
And then, we have 24 hours and we have canceled those.
Yeah.
And so just something to think about. Like there are times where if it's too good to be true, it's like, just book it and then we can figure out the rest later.
Yeah, if you're trying to figure out logistics or you're trying to figure out like accommodation, or like if you would even think that you would like to go there, like just book the flight. As long as it's touching down in the US somewhere, you can cancel within 24 hours. So it's a really cool thing that I think a lot of people don't know about, but it gives you the option to just jump on those cheap flights that you see before that price goes up tomorrow. If you're doing a lot of research on the place that you're going and then now the flight is an extra couple $100, you've just lost out on that. So use that to your advantage. That's a really cool little feature. And then bonus, I talked about this earlier, but make sure that you sign up for flight alerts. That's a great way to make sure that you are getting the alerts for when prices are dropping or things like that, because that's a great way to book cheap flights.
All right, so I've learned a lot this thing, and luckily for me, Tara does this, and she's been doing this for the past 10 years roughly since we started traveling, and it's very, very beneficial. That's one of the reasons why we have been able to travel all the places we've been, like just crazy. Like people will ask us, oh, like, how do you guys do what you do? How have you done this? And a lot of it has been because we have gotten really cheap flights to where we've gone. And then we try to budget as well as possible as we go. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like when you can go to Thailand for $800 a person when it's average, $1,500 to $2,000, that's where you can save quite a bit of money. And then we just figure it out after that. Generally, it's like, where do you want to go? She'll ask me, where do you want to go? And I'll throw out some places or whatever, or what region. And then she will be like, oh, hey, Tahiti's only $700 out of LA. And then, and then we figure out a way after that, because that's one of the biggest things that I think people put in their way of like, oh, well, it's so expensive to get there or whatnot. So it is proven to work. Like what she does is so, I mean, I've learned quite a bit. And
now you can book the flights.
No, thank you. I don't care. You love it.
I will say too, if you're new at this and you're trying this all for the first time or the first couple times, it's going to take some practice. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't get frustrated. It's all going to get easier. The more you use it, the better it gets. Play around with the different sites, but ultimately I think if you use one, you get really good at the one, and you know the ins and outs of the ones, which is why I end up just kind of sticking to Google Flights. I've used all of those other ones before, but now I just mostly go Google Flights. It's tried and true, and I know that it's gonna like give me good results. So, but it can get frustrating. It can get overwhelming. There's a lot of information, but once you start to get some good cheap flights, it's all worth it.
It is. Honestly, that's it is. It's one of the coolest things that we get to do is just cheap flights, and then that's just the beginning of it. That's why we are generally budget travelers, but we do delve our toes into some luxurious stuff. But like we try to just do more quantity when it comes to traveling, and then starting with cheap flights is where we start. That's the best place to start.
Then we can enjoy our time when we're there.
Yeah. So if you guys found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.